Why did Hayao Miyazaki win the Academy Award with a film made the way he liked his final film? Toshio Okada delivers a thorough breakdown of the surprising reason and Miyazaki's true final message. It turns out Western audiences weren't watching The Boy and the Heron as fantasy at all. How did that lead to the Oscar win, and what is 84-year-old Miyazaki's next surprising move?
The Boy and the Heron won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, and Best Animated Feature is a general award that all Academy members vote on. Right. When all members vote on it, what exactly gets evaluated? I think it was the content and the theme that got recognized. And what was that? I think the theme of war seen through the eyes of a boy came through. This is interesting. It actually won for a reason different from what director Miyazaki intended. What I mean is, take Godzilla -1. They said director Yamazaki was misdirecting. Director Yamazaki was misdirecting, right? Actually, he was very deliberately targeting the Academy Awards, aiming for international acclaim and overseas box office. That was Godzilla -1. Director Yamazaki doesn't really talk about this, but I think he was aiming for it. I read it as a deliberate strategy. In contrast, The Boy and the Heron went in completely without that kind of calculation. It's your last film, make whatever you want. And while it's not exactly misread overseas, there's a bit of a gap in understanding. Let me explain that gap. First, how do we Japanese viewers see this film? And even more so, how does the creator side, Studio Ghibli, Toshio Suzuki, Hayao Miyazaki himself, see The Boy and the Heron? They see it as a new Ghibli film, as a Miyazaki work. But for Hollywood, and this isn't a category award, it's a general award. We're talking about some 10,000 members voting. And most of them have barely seen any Ghibli or Miyazaki films at all. When those members voted, people who know little about Miyazaki's work, if you strip away the Ghibli and Miyazaki filter, how did The Boy and the Heron look to them? How did it appear to those viewers? Here's my take on how it must have looked. The Boy and the Heron, as seen by Western intellectuals. Plot point 1. The boy's mother dies in an air raid. But his father profits from wartime production and marries his late wife's sister, his stepmother. That's plot point 1. Plot point 2. The boy from the city can't bear the roughness of rural life and shuts himself in. Plot 3. His stepmother is taken away. A heron leads him to another world, and he meets his mother who was supposed to be dead. He encounters his deceased mother. Plot point 4. The boy rejects the past world, the war, and takes back his stepmother. That's how it reads. We, who have watched Ghibli films many times, don't see it that way. We connect it to Miyazaki's past works and interpret it with layers of meaning. But for people with no experience of Ghibli films, when they watch it as a contemporary film, what do they see? The old man near the end says, "Inherit this beautiful world." They can't read that as Ghibli's works. How do they read it? Japan was at war with the world back then. There's war from the very beginning. So, that old man must be saying, "Inherit this Japan at war." That's how the old man's words read. That the old man is saying, "Inherit Japan that is at war." That's how it seems. And the boy appears to refuse that. This is the beautiful misreading, a beautiful misunderstanding. This is how it reads. The dying mother, the disappeared mother, retrieving her from the other world. It takes on a structure like Stephen King's The Talisman, a boy's adventure, and that's where the interpretation diverges. Then there's Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse didn't win, and there's talk of its voice cast being upset, basically dissing the result. Why didn't Spider-Verse win? In this context, it makes sense. Spider-Verse is a personal story, but it's also driven by a sense of duty, the obligation to save the world. That's the overall drama of Spider-Verse. But The Boy and the Heron. How to live? How do you want to live? A boy whose family was destroyed in this world stumbles into another world, rescues two mothers, and comes back. That's what it is by comparison. In other words, Spider-Verse stays within the structure of Marvel and DC hero movies. It's the structure of its era. In contrast, The Boy and the Heron comes across as a critique of the wars happening in the world today, a kind of universal resonance. That's how it reads. The isekai genre that had become so normal in Japan, Miyazaki turned it into a film that speaks to the world. That's why it won. It's something close to the isekai reincarnation genre. The Boy and the Heron is. Miyazaki gave his own interpretation to what's hugely popular in Japan. As I mentioned earlier, Godzilla had a clear strategy, aiming for international awards. International acclaim, overseas box office, deliberately going for the Academy. Not by chance, it was a victory of planning and execution, because, from production, they decided, never show Godzilla killing people on screen. Never show a scene of Godzilla directly killing someone. Like in Ginza, it looks like Godzilla is stepping, but no bodies are shown. Or at the start on Odo Island, it looks like an attack, but actually it's just shaking Godzilla around by the mouth. No scenes of tearing apart bodies like in Jurassic Park. As I mentioned at the start, Godzilla -1 is a film where they first decided what to show on screen. They meticulously calculated what appears on screen, and from the start decided, Godzilla will not kill people on screen. Scenes of killing will not be depicted. That's clear. No on-screen kills by Godzilla, and also, no depiction of American war crimes. It's a monster born from U.S. nuclear testing. But they don't pursue American wartime responsibility. And there's a story of a man who lost his family in the war, trying to get them back. A script aimed at world audiences. You can tell from all this that it was targeted from the beginning. And then the Miyazaki team, after their Hollywood release, did well. They kept traveling to the U.S. right through until Academy voting began. Hosting parties and gift presentations for Academy members, constantly. Kept at it. Held 3 or more private screenings for Academy members. The fact that they kept repeating this, as I said before, means they were going after the win. He won it by strategy. The Boy and the Heron did none of that. None of it at all. In contrast, The Boy and the Heron was a lucky punch. That's maybe not the nicest way to say it. Western audiences, unlike Japanese audiences, when they hear it's Ghibli, Miyazaki, a new film, they don't automatically see it as fantasy. Western audiences actually don't see Miyazaki's The Boy and the Heron as fantasy. For a film to read as fantasy to Western audiences, there are rules. There must be a clear, explicit magic user. A wizard appears, uses magic, and there's a clear explanation. This is magic. Every Western fantasy film does this. Whether it's Harry Potter or Disney films, they always do it. This is magic. Without that, what does it look like? It looks like metaphor. Not fantasy, but a story of a boy who grows up through experiences he has in a dream. The boy reads, "How do you live?" The novel has a nightmare. Grows through it, and returns. It accidentally reads that way. It's a strangely wonderful thing. Creating something like Alice in Wonderland. Only the British and the Japanese can do that. Non-British Westerners. With films like The Boy and the Heron or Spirited Away. Why are they so popular in Europe? Because they're not seen as fantasy, they're seen as metaphor. So The Boy and the Heron, it's a metaphor film, not fantasy. Almost no irrationality, that strange quality. Just a little. At the end, when Natsuko comes back, birds burst out of a shack all at once. She's covered in bird droppings, but then it all just disappears. That's strangeness. Or in Spirited Away, when Chihiro returns, time has passed. Weeks or months have gone by. That's strangeness. But that's all. Because it isn't written as explicit magic. There's no wizard appearing. To Western intellectuals, it all reads as metaphor, as allegory. I think this is the reason for the high critical reception. So, the next film. What will director Miyazaki's next film be? According to Toshio Suzuki, he's working on something vigorously now. Amazing, right? When asked why he isn't holding a press conference after winning the Academy Award, this is what Toshio Suzuki said. Miyazaki is terribly embarrassed right now. He announced his retirement at a press conference, and then, now all this has happened. And he says he doesn't have the face to show in public. What a life. And when asked why he won't attend the Academy ceremony, if I go to the Academy Awards ceremony and step on stage, I'll break into a grin. As a Japanese man, grinning up there on stage, that's absolutely something I must not do. So I'm absolutely not going. That's what he reportedly said. All of that together, what an incredibly amusing old man. About the next film. Howl's Moving Castle, then The Wind Rises, then The Boy and the Heron. They've been gradually getting closer to his own story. But there are still things he hasn't told. Miyazaki himself was a sickly child, always looking after his younger brothers, not getting much attention from his parents. Those real stories haven't come out yet. Miyazaki is 84 now. In his late 80s, his next film, In a World Without Isao Takahata. What kind of animation will he make? That's what I was speculating about. This has been my prediction for a while. He'll hand Nausicaa to Anno or Yamazaki. It used to be a given, hand it to Hideaki Anno. But lately there's talk of handing it to Yamazaki. Handing the live action to him. Animation to Hideaki Anno. Live action to Yamazaki. That line is emerging. And focusing on autobiography. Specifically, Hall's Prince of the Sun. The era of animators who made Heidi, Girl of the Alps. Telling that story properly. A proper autobiographical film. And also, a Nausicaa sequel as a short film at the Ghibli Museum. That's what I think he'll do.